A single photograph, faded, innocent, almost forgettable at first glance, has ignited a firestorm that refuses to die down. It shows a young boy, smiling, unburdened by the weight of legacy or expectation. Beneath it, a caption, "Future Daystar President." What might once have been seen as a sentimental gesture now sits at the center of a growing controversy, raising uncomfortable questions about promises made, power seized, and a legacy that many believe has been quietly rewritten. Before we dive deeper into the story, take a little moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The image has spread rapidly across digital spaces, not because of its aesthetic value, but because of what it represents. For many observers, it serves as a symbolic contract, one that appears, in hindsight, to have been broken. The boy in the photo is Jonathan Lamb, son of Daystar television network founder Marcus Lamb. And that simple caption has become the cornerstone of a narrative suggesting that the future once envisioned for him was not only altered, but deliberately dismantled. Take a moment to watch this breakdown.
This heartbreaking childhood photo of Jonathan Lamb was released, and you will see that this photo struck a major chord with people, gaining over 12,000 views in a short period. So now I'm going to do a close-up of the photo so you can see the caption at the bottom. It says, "Jonathan Lamb, future Daystar president." They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but this one is worth 10,000. Lamb saw his son as the heir apparent to take over Daystar TV one day. Instead, his birthright was robbed by Joni Lamb and Jonathan stood up to them with their adulterous marriage and confronted them about many other things as well. Jonathan was then demoted and then fired for taking a righteous stand. Jezebel never likes to be confronted. And a matter of fact, she will work to destroy the confronter, even if that means it's her own son. You will see over 20 departures from Daystar Network. It is large names like Joyce Meyer. Recently, Greg Laurie and Jack Hibbs pulled their program off the air. What is disheartening about all of this is that Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss are still in power. They went forward with Jonathan's body under the bus, and they had no problem running him over at all to keep this money power show continue.
To understand why this moment has struck such a nerve, it's necessary to revisit the culture and expectations surrounding religious broadcasting networks like Daystar. These organizations often operate not just as media companies, but as family-driven ministries where legacy, continuity, and spiritual stewardship are deeply intertwined. Viewers don't simply watch, they invest emotionally, spiritually, and often financially. As a result, leadership transitions carry a weight far beyond corporate restructuring. They are perceived as matters of faith, trust, and divine purpose. Marcus Lamb, as the founder of Daystar, was widely seen as the architect of a global religious platform. Over decades, he built the network into one of the largest Christian television broadcasters in the world. Like many founders, there was a natural expectation that his vision would extend beyond his lifetime, ideally through someone who not only understood the mission but shared his bloodline. For many viewers, Jonathan Lamb appeared to be that person. He grew up in the public eye, gradually taking on roles within the network, and becoming a familiar presence to audiences who had watched him mature over the years. The resurfaced photograph, therefore, is not just an isolated artifact. It is part of a broader narrative that many believe to be firmly established. The idea that Jonathan was being groomed for leadership was not merely speculative. It seemed reinforced by years of visibility, involvement, and implied succession. The caption beneath that childhood image now reads less like a hopeful note and more like a declaration that was never fulfilled. As this narrative gained traction, critics began to scrutinize what happened after Marcus Lamb's passing. According to these perspectives, the anticipated transition did not occur. Instead, leadership remained in the hands of Joni Lamb, Marcus's widow, alongside Dr. Doug Weiss, whose increasing influence within the organization has drawn attention and, in some circles, skepticism. This shift in leadership dynamics has become a focal point of debate. Critics argue that rather than a smooth generational transition, the network experienced a consolidation of power that sidelined the presumed successor. While there has been no official statement confirming such claims, the absence of clarity has only intensified speculation. Jonathan Lamb's role, or lack thereof, in the current structure has fueled further questions. Reports and allegations suggest that he did not quietly step aside, but instead raised concerns about the direction the network was taking. These claims, while not independently verified, paint a picture of internal conflict, one where differing visions for the future of the organization may have collided. If true, such disagreements would not be unusual in family-run enterprises, particularly those with significant public influence. However, what makes this situation unique is the spiritual dimension attached to Daystar's mission. Disputes are not merely business disagreements. They are often interpreted through a moral or theological lens. This elevates the stakes, transforming internal friction into a matter of public concern. The alleged fallout between Jonathan and the current leadership is described by critics as severe. Some claim he was gradually pushed out of influential roles, eventually leading to his complete removal from the leadership structure. Again, these accounts remain unconfirmed by official sources, but they have gained traction due to the broader context of silence surrounding the issue. Silence, in this case, has proven to be a powerful amplifier. In the absence of clear communication, audiences are left to piece together narratives from fragmented information. Old videos, resurfaced photos, and anecdotal reports. This environment creates fertile ground for speculation, where each new piece of evidence is interpreted as confirmation of a larger, hidden story. The situation has been further complicated by Joni Lamb's reported health challenges, which have led to her reduced presence on screen. For many viewers, this development has intensified concerns about leadership stability. In moments of uncertainty, organizations often look to familiar figures to restore confidence. The fact that Jonathan has not re-emerged in any visible capacity has been interpreted by some as a sign of deeper, unresolved issues. At the same time, the network has reportedly experienced a series of high-profile departures. Several well-known figures associated with Daystar have stepped away, prompting questions about internal dynamics. While departures in media organizations are not uncommon, the timing and frequency in this case have contributed to a perception of instability. Observers have drawn parallels to other institutions where leadership disputes and lack of transparency led to broader organizational challenges. In many such cases, the erosion of trust begins not with a single, but with a pattern of unanswered questions. When audiences feel excluded from the truth, they often fill in the gaps themselves, and not always in ways that are favorable to those in power. The Daystar situation appears to be following a similar trajectory. The combination of a symbolic photograph, alleged succession disputes, leadership changes, and ongoing silence has created a narrative that is difficult to control. Whether or not all claims are accurate, the perception of a broken promise has taken hold. This raises important questions about the nature of leadership in faith-based organizations. How should succession be handled when the founder is no longer present? What level of transparency is owed to an audience that has invested not just money, but belief? And how can trust be maintained when internal decisions have external consequences? The answers are not simple, but the implications are significant. Public expectations around succession are not just about continuity, they are about integrity. When those expectations are not met, the impact can ripple far beyond the organization itself, affecting the broader community that supports it. Leadership disputes, particularly in environments where authority is closely held, tend to escalate when communication breaks down. Transparency acts as a stabilizing force, providing clarity and reducing the space for speculation. Without it, even routine decisions can appear suspicious. The resurfacing of historical evidence, like the photograph of Jonathan, demonstrates how the past can influence the present. In an age where digital archives are easily accessible, no narrative is ever truly buried. What was once a simple image can become a powerful symbol, reshaping public perception and reigniting debates that might otherwise have faded. The recent departures from Daystar add another layer to this unfolding story. Organizational instability often manifests in personnel changes, particularly when individuals at various levels begin to question the direction or environment. While each departure may have its own explanation, collectively they contribute to a sense of uncertainty. Trust, once lost, is difficult to regain. For many viewers, the current situation has introduced doubt where there was once confidence. The perception that information is being withheld, or that the full story is not being told, can be more damaging than any singles. As the narrative continues to evolve, one thing remains clear: the questions are not going away. The photograph, the allegations, the leadership dynamics, all of it has become part of a larger conversation about accountability, legacy, and truth. In the end, the story of Daystar is not just about a network or a family. It is about the expectations placed on those who lead, the responsibilities they carry, and the consequences when those responsibilities are perceived to be unmet. Whether the current leadership chooses to address these concerns directly or maintain its silence will likely determine how this chapter is remembered. For now, the image of a young boy labeled future president continues to circulate, a quiet but persistent reminder of a promise that many believe has yet to be fulfilled, and perhaps never will be. If you want more deep dive investigations like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss what comes next.